Okay, so as Soham explained you about the basic introduction of React, next we'll move with the JSX or we'll dive deep into it. So basically, what is JSX and why there is a use of it, right? You have to understand that. So first of all, let's learn what is the full form of it is, that is JavaScript XML. Now, I'll tell you in a layman terms that what happens, JavaScript language is used for writing a logic for a particular thing, right? Now, I think my video is not on, right? Wait, okay. Okay, now, so JavaScript is used for writing a logic in a particular program, and we use HTML for the UI part, right? So what happened? We have to have a separate files for both, right? For writing logic and for embedding the UI. So what JSX does, it allows us to write the logic part and the UI part in the same file, right? So that is why that JavaScript and XML. So basically, if you are able to embed the HTML in the JavaScript, that is known as JSX. I'd like to ask you a question that what is the difference between this XML and HTML? You can write it in the chat box till then because the full form is JavaScript XML, right? And we are embedding the HTML part in JSX. So there is a very minor difference and similarity also. Till then you can write it in the chat box if you know the answer. Now, we'll move straight to the implementation part. So hope my VS Code is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So as Soham explained that in this directly, so I have created this client name. Okay, so no need to worry. I have just named it client. Okay, inside this client, there are my folders. You can see it in my terminal as well. I have changed the directory to client. Then I have given the npm start. Now, I'll like to explain you the uh, folder structure first because a beginner might get confused what are all these, right? So just to get a basic idea of what it is, we'll see it one by one. So first of all, I'd like to start with this app.js. Okay, so this app.js is the main file which is getting rendered in the browser, right? And the proof of it is it in the index.html. You can see this app component getting rendered, right? So this is the app.js. So whatever activity we'll do, suppose routing and all that we will see later on, we'll do in this app.js file. And whatever component we have to use, we can use it in this file. Now this was about app.js and index.js. App.css is the CSS file which we can write it here.
सुन
For
ना,
now, I
मुझे
have just
डेवलपर
erased
नाम
it
क्या है
here.
वो ऑनलाइन नहीं, शायद मुझे उसका नाम बता ना एमएस टीम का, क्योंकि उसके पास एक्सेस नहीं है प्रेजेंटिंग का। नहीं रहेगा तो इश्यू हो जाएगा,
Devanshu,
वो दिख नहीं रही है इसकी
Devanshu,
मीटिंग में।
you're mute. You are okay. Great, no problem. So this was the app.css, app.js, and index.js file, right? And this component folder, I have made it to show you the demonstration. Don't worry about it. In this component folder, I have made this files, okay, error.js, home.js, login.js, which we'll see later on in the course. But for now, this is the component folder. Now, what is this package.json? Whatever dependencies you'll install in this course also will get here. For example, React router DOM. When I'll teach you router, the concept of router, I'll install this package known as React router DOM, right? So this will be seen in this package.json file. Okay. So this is the pretty, and also there are various scripts. So you can see the start script, so which is helping us to start the our project. So no need to dive deep into it, just for giving the basic introduction. These are the folder structures, right? Now moving on to the JSX part, what I was teaching, right? So I'll close these files. I have made a folder known as component, and inside this I have made home.js. Okay. Now let's write some code. So in this home component, what I'll do, let's say I write MLSC homepage. Okay. But in this app.js, you can see this app component written here. And in the home.js, I have written the home page. But if I run it, you'll still see this app component. Why? Because I have not used this home component yet, right? So for using it, what I can do below this, I can import my home. Okay. So it will auto import it. You can manually import it also. Import home, I'll zoom it a bit. You can manually import it also. Import home from /components. Inside that, there is a home. Now, if I save it and if I see it in my browser, you can see the MLSC homepage getting rendered after this app component. So you'll study components in detail, but this is pretty basic idea of it. But what is the JSX part of it, right? So for that, let's say I declare a variable also, right? Because this was only a pure HTML part. But what about JavaScript, which I was talking about, embedding HTML into the JavaScript? So let's say I write const my name is equal to Prakhar. Okay. Now, what if I want to use this Prakhar variable and show it in my page, right? So how can I achieve that? So first rule you have to keep in mind, if you have to write the JavaScript logic between those HTML tags and all, you have to always use this curly braces. So let's say I use another div. Inside that, I'll write this curly braces. Okay. I hope it is visible clearly. So inside this curly braces, I can use this variable, my name. Okay, and you can write strings like this also. For example, a whole sentence. My name is Prakhar. So see, my name is not in the curly braces, whereas this variable, when I have to use this variable, it is inside this. So if I save it and see this, you can see it rendering. My name is Prakhar, right? What if I don't use this curly braces? It's pretty simple, right? Only my name will get printed because the compiler wouldn't know that it is a variable, right? So we'll see it. So my name, okay. So I'll again wrap it inside curly braces. So this was a very basic example of JSX. What is JSX actually? I told embedding JavaScript or HTML onto one another. Means see, this is the JavaScript part and this is the HTML part. So, and these logic and the UI part are written inside one file, right? So this is the basic example of JSX. Now, this was the what and why of JSX. Now we'll move to the features. Okay. So JSX prevents the injection attacks, or it is because what happens when we are writing a let's say a logic, let's say that only my name variable. So what happens, how the compiler is knowing that it is a variable or it is an HTML part. So what happens in the backend, as Soham also mentioned, there is a Babel compiler, right? I'm not sure about the pronunciation. So this Babel compiler, what it does, it converts all the components or the tags or the logic of the JavaScript into a strings, right? I'll show you later also. So everything is converted into strings. So let's say a hacker is trying to embed your data. So that cannot be happened, right? Because everything is converted to string by Babel compiler, and then it is able to, execute the logic. So Babel compiles JSX down to a React create element. I actually have taken this sentence from the official documentation. I'll explain you by going there. Okay. So let's say JSX in React. What was that? Create element. Okay, great. So we will compile JSX down to this. Now, what is React.create element? So as I mentioned, it all gets converted to a string. So let's say this is the example, right? Const element and this greeting and hello world, right? So now if you see it below, this h1 tag got converted into a string. After that, this class name got converted into an object. And inside this object, this greeting is again transformed it into a string, and then hello world obviously into a string. So this is the backend part of the JSX by which the Babel compilers know, or it transforms the logic, and then the following processes take place, right? You can see one more example. So what happens in the backend? Type is h1, that is the h1 tag. The class name is greeting, and the children is hello world. Okay, now you can play with JSX all along. Let's say I'll take one more example. Let's say cons uh, options. This is the variable name, I will create an object. This is how you create an object, by curly braces, okay? Because this is a string, right? This data type is string and this is an object. So let's say I write G1 for greeting and colon and then good morning. Okay. And I'll write one more part in it, that is G2. Let's say good night. Okay. So how can I use these options now? Now this is the JavaScript part, right? How can I use it in HTML? So as I mentioned, you have to use this curly braces. So you can just write anything. Hello options dot, let's say G1, then comma, my name is Prakhar. So you can see it, hello, good morning. Okay, so good morning is a variable coming from this, what do you say, object, and then my name is Prakhar, okay. And if I write G2 here, obviously good night will get displayed because it will go in this option object. Inside that, it will fetch this G2, right? So hello, good night, my name is Prakhar. Anyways. So this is how you can play it all with the JSX. And one more thing, if you are worrying that this extension is .js all along, right? That is JavaScript. One more thing you can use, you can create new file. Let's say random dot JS is okay, but you can also write JSX. So you see the logo also changed. And if I enter it, so you can all write all things in this also. So it doesn't make any difference. So you can use this JSX extends also. Now you can install this ES7. What was it? Yeah, ES7 React Readers GraphQL React Native snippets, right? So you will be able to, use the shortcuts provided by this extension. For example, if I make another file known as whatever .js, and if I write RFCE, you can see this suggestions, right? So this is coming from this ES7 module. You can see it here also. So if you enter it, you will get this code snippet, right? This return, this function, based components and all that, right? So this was a pretty basic introduction of JSX. Now we can move to the components part.